Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Yeah, this is definitely a day that I don't think I need to give you guys what I think about it. But for a brief bit, I'm just going to say it's a bit personal. Not that I have anything against Valentine's Day or anything, but honestly, despite it's me going gushing over this day of time when it comes to something like when I was a kid, I think it's a little too cringy to talk about now. Plus, I was a little kid who, went after a lot of stuff that were Valentine's Day related. But nonetheless, it's time once again to talk about yet again another shoujo anime. But first, let's talk about harems, or in this case, reverse harems. If for those who don't know, reverse harem is basically a term used for something that's the opposite of a harem. Where harem is basically a romance group where boys surround instead of that. As in, it's really a girl with a bunch of boys. Yeah, could make this sort of a polyamorous relationship, but honestly, there was a lot more to it than just that, though. My introduction to the reverse harem should not be a surprise to literally anyone, but it would have to be Oron High School Host Club. I say not surprising because honestly, a lot of people will either point you out to this or Fruits Basket, one of two. And as someone who's still watching Fruits Basket as of lately, I can definitely say that's going to take a while to do so. But honestly, aside from that, though, there's not much I can say about Oron for a long time, though. I remember starting to watch the Hero of Tomorrow's older videos when he was talking about his top 10 harem anime that don't suck list, which was years ago before I started watching his channel. I mean, granted, if it doesn't help my case when you realize that Oron had a lot of impact for a lot of people who have seen it. And anyone who has already discussed how much they have revolve around it anyways, though. I mean, like Sailor Moon, Oron was actually my gateway to the shoujo demographic. But looking back at it now, I'm just gonna say this right here and now. I originally wanted to talk about Oron High School Host Club, but what if else is there that I could say that has already been said? Maybe I'll do another video on something like Oron, but it's gonna take a while because practically everybody has talked about Oron. Even if you haven't seen Oron, you know there's a lot of people who talk about it. Or maybe I'm just talking out of my wits end here, though. But even with that said, however, I only watched it during the pandemic that time because there was nothing else for me to do, though. I'll go probably make a demographic about how it's anime with a video, but for the time's sake, I decided to go against it for right now. I mean, let's be honest, that video is going to take way longer than it should, but I have another video. So you're probably asking yourself, though, why did I bring up or on to begin with, though? Well, it's mostly because due to the fact that I wanted to see what other reverse harems out there that were about, I was kind of curious in finding more of them. Granted, there were some that actually were part of my radar, but I haven't seen all of them, like Kami-sama Kiss or Yona of the Dawn. Brothers Conflict, although that one was probably cringy in a lot of ways, which, yeah, I'm not going to discuss about that. Fruits Basket, but I'm still currently watching it as of now. And also, there's Pre-Tear. Yeah, that was actually supposed to be my original request for it, though, when it comes to having these here podcasts, the Magical Girls shows. But I decided to, to told that I don't know when I'll be doing Pre-Tear, but I promise I'll do it eventually. After all, it is 13 episodes long anyway. But for the time being, the Wallflower. The Wallflower was based on the manga by Tomoko Hayakawa, who was actually written manga for quite a while, ever since 2000. Yeah, unlike Aura, which actually has been going on for 18 volumes, though. The Wallflower has lasted for 36 volumes, but it seems to have gotten overshadowed at this point, though, because there weren't a lot of people who talked about it as much as they could have, though. From what I gather, the Wallflower in itself, despite it lasting for a longer period of time, lasting from 2000 to 2015, it had a lot of story material for it, though. But of course, because as we couldn't have things last long, it lasted for around two and adaptations. Sorry about that. Yeah, they had a lot of things going for the Wallflower, but from what I can tell, they only had two different adaptations. One of which being a drama series, which lasted for 10 or 11 episodes. Which honestly, I don't review anime dramas though. Seriously though, if I never did do a drama, that would be nice. But most importantly, I can't find any footage for it. From what I've seen so far, and even if I did, though, it would probably leave anyone leaving leftless anyways though. Let's just put it this way. I don't review drama, and even if I did, I don't think I would have a place to find it on though. Yeah, there are some Netflix adaptations though, but from what I've heard, they really don't go as far as they could, unless there's something like One Piece, which actually did do very well. But of course, we're not here to talk about the live action series, obviously. We're here to talk about the anime, which lasted for one season of 25 episodes. Yeah, like Oron, even though I'm going to probably say the two all the time when it comes right down to it, though, this one lasted one episode less than Oron did. And honestly, it had a lot of things going for it, though. The animation was done by Nippon Animation, which, if you need an intro to that, though, well, honestly, there isn't a lot I can say about it. I mostly know them for doing the World Masterpiece Theater, which lasted for a long time till they got a revival from it. And there was also the anime that a lot of people keep coming back to me when it comes to my mind would have two things. It would have to be either from Corrector Yui or Come It's on Baton Princess. I will talk about those in another Magical Girl podcast videos, but not today. Honestly, it's going to take a while to do so, considering that they are subtitled, and what's more, I'm still watching Corrector Yui as of now, though. Yeah, I haven't gone that far, even though I started last year, so you can definitely bet how slow that is, though. But for the time's sake, let's talk about the Wallflower and see if this is a radiant of light or we're just doomed for the darkness. This is the Wallflower. The series itself found our main character Sanako Nakahara, our main female lead for this reverse harem. But the series itself turns to a turn when we take a flashback 2 years prior from the series. See, as it turns out, Sanako tries to confess as her love to a boy she has a crush on, though, when she was in school. Unfortunately, the boy rejects her because, in his words, he hates ugly girls. Jesus Christ, dude! I get that she wanted to confess her love to you, but did you really have to go that far? Because honestly, that's what it is. Though. Fast forward to 2 years later, where we meet our group of boys, though, or as a lot of people like to call him, Bishonen. No word on Bishonen killer from Pataliro, but still. Anyways, when the boys that we're focusing on are Kyohei Takano, the kind of hot-headed boy who seems to have a big appetite, but still has a lot when he wants to, though. Yuki Nojo, or Yuki as they call him for short, is really the androgynous lowly boy type, though. Though, honestly, I'm glad they don't use him too much for that, though, thank God. Then there's Taganaga, the book smart boy, and there's finally Ranmaru, the ladies' man of the group. As they are they're having a calm, relaxing day, though, Kyohei, for their landlady is coming. And I wonder who this landlady may be. Asuka? Well, actually, that's actually supposed to be Auntie, or Mine, as you want to call that, though. She's Sanako's aunt, and as you can tell, she has an offer to, or in this case, a mission for the boys, to, though, to turn Sanako into a beautiful, lovely lady. Though and if they do very well by the time she gets back from her vacation, she will give the boys their her mansion for free with free rent, free food, free everything you could name. Though I bet that's everyone's dream. Though, however, if they fail, chances are, if they don't turn Sanako into the lady that they have to turn her into, though, it's here where we get to see that they'll have their rent triple the amount, though. Kyohei and the boys are really doing whatever they can out of themselves because they really want Sanako. After Sanako appears out of the bushes, though, this isn't what the boys thought Sanako would be at times, though. See, as it turns out, Sanako looks like a very scruffy gothic girl who doesn't seem to dress up in fancy clothing a lot. In fact, she doesn't really give a good first impression at first glance, though. She tells the boys to leave her alone because she doesn't want to be bothered. And as you can tell from there, though, things are turning a lot much harder than it should be, though. All with the boys doing everything they can. Sanako still refuses to cooperate with them. And as you can tell from there, though, she doesn't seem to want to become a lady in their way, though. But after going through hell just to do so already, though, we're met with a bunch of other stuff that we can actually do so already, though. Now, one thing's for sure, though, Sanako, despite being very gothic, though, is really not always a wallflower because she does open up and she does stand up on herself on occasion, but it's only when she wants to, though. Whether they try to get rid of her mannequins or sometimes anything, they'll do whatever it takes to do something to have her open up, though. Despite their best efforts, though, boys do everything they can to do so, but realizing that they don't have a lot of time, though, they have to do whatever it takes to make Snako into the lady that she is, though. No matter what repercussions come along the way, the hilarious adventure ensues. All with all doing so already, though. Now, I will say, despite this anime coming out at a time where a lot of people could make the argument that there are some implications you can say about how they. So I think that's kind of the whole point. Keep this in mind. I wasn't really expecting myself to talk about the Wallflower first glance, but honestly, the reason why I started talking about it is because I guess I was wrong when I was saying that nobody's ever talked about it because there was a person who has talked about this series. Though, admittedly, that was many years ago when the YouTube was still a new age at the time being, though. So I highly doubt anyone cares about that. So I'm just gonna talk about this from my perspective and to worry up on you guys of how I feel about it, though. Now, I'll say for a series like the Wallflower, I think this may have gotten a little unfair treatment when it comes to something like Oron. While Oron came out after the Wallflower her said manga came out, I have to confess it really is pretty nice to see something like that. But I think that's probably one of the reasons why a lot of people kind of skipped out on this series because this series, despite it being well a comedy, a lot of the time it's really gone to the over the topness. Where Oron was basically supposed to be a parody of those said things, though the Wallflower is more on trying to get Sanako into the lady that is, though, and it's really over the top. Characters yelling all the time. Characters trying to get Sanako to change when she doesn't want to, and there are so many other things I could mention here and there, though, that could probably give you a nosebleed. Okay, I wouldn't say that as a the boys being attractive or anything like that, but really, that's a running gag throughout the series, though. Not just in the background female characters getting a nosebleed whenever they see these here boys, but it's also due to the fact that, believe it or not, they actually do have Sanako nosebleed too. Whenever she sees the boys, mostly around Kyohei, she'll usually nosebleed to the point where she calls them the radiant and light or something like that, or creatures of light, if anything to judge by, though. Yeah, one thing's for sure, though. This is what I mean when I say that Sanako doesn't want to cooperate with them, but there are times where she does open up. There are some episodes where she'll go ahead and do whatever she can to open herself up. Like, say, in one episode, she does compete with Yohei to attend to some sports range, and they also play tennis together. And when you know it, anyone who's seen the series already knows by now the scene where Yohei and Tanako had kissed was actually accidental. That would have been nice if they did kiss, though. But even I'll admit, despite being rushed, I kind of prefer them when it is, though. I'm not usually into shipping, but even I'll admit it is something nice to look at, though, and that's what it been nice if we had so already, though. But later on, we do get to see other characters that seem to help out Sanako too, like Noi. Noi is a girl that at the time I thought she was going to take away Hey Kyohei, but she's actually more interested in Naga Naga. Smart boy, as I mentioned earlier, though. And even with that said, however, they do pretty they look pretty nice with each other, though. Or hell, how about some of these other characters that come on the way though. Later on, we do get to see other characters that help out, but it isn't until like later on when we see Ranbaru's other character and some stuff like that. But still, one thing I will say, despite this year series being well 2000s like though, it does have the distinctive look of something like this though. I will admit though. There are times where a lot of people can compare this to Oron, but some people say it's a gothic version to Oron. Though, can I just say, when watching this series, this reminded me of another series. Think about it. The main character is an introvert. She doesn't want to open herself up to a lot of the characters along the way, though. She feels uh, much of an introvert, and a lot of people get scared of her as a result, though. Now, I don't know about you guys, but has anyone seen the series From Me to You? For those who don't know what I'm talk about from me to you is basically what it sounds like. Our main character isn't really an introvert, but she does look like one apparently for some people, and she's also scares a lot of people, not on purpose or anything like that. She's just more misunderstood, and she's also like to point out that there are some things with her that rub her the wrong way. And honestly, the main character's Hanako does kind of look like from me to you's character, Sawako. No, I'm not kidding you. That's really her name, though. Yeah, despite their appearances, however, I think Sanako may be a lot gothier than she is, though, accordingly, though, when it comes right down to it, though. But I think that's kind of the whole point of this series because, in all retrospect, they try and whatever they can to make Sanako into the lady, but you do realize that sometimes she doesn't want to change. I'll put it to you this way: she does have moments where, aside from the athletic episode where they had a sports no, they do have a beach episode, which isn't for fan service, thankfully, but there are some man service hookups here and there, though. But it's really clear that also, despite that, though, it's worth pointing out that she does show, that she wants to show having fun, but she's only there to see something else. Or hell, how about the Halloween episode where they really forgot that she was into Halloween, but she was also pretty sick when doing so, which caused her to be pretty disappointed that they forgot about that, though. It wasn't her birthday or anything like that, but wouldn't it be hilarious if it was on her birthday nonetheless? I mean, I get that she's a Scorpio, but even with that said, I still found that pretty funny in its own way, though. But the characters do grow over the course of the series, but that's only when they do so already, though. And honestly, when you look at the characters, they do look like they came from something like that. One thing I did not know when watching this year's show was how much the boys are. Well, I wouldn't say too beautiful, but it does show when it comes to the man service around at times, though. The man service is not as what you think, though, but it does come around when it comes to that, though. And honestly, I think a lot of girls who were watching this show pretty much drooled over these here boys. But am I the only one who feels like every time I watch this year's show, they up? I don't know if it's just me, but honestly, when looking at this year's up, they always say it's horror related. Outside of Sanaka being gothic and having a lot more of her well, gothic darkness and something like her mannequins and some other stuff like the horror movies that she watches in the background when she's in a dark room by herself. Though there's not much anything I can say that's horror related, unless you count the time when Sanako does kind of remind some people of The Ring or something like that. But other than that, there's not much I can say though about this being a horror series. Maybe it was taken as a horror series when some people thought it first, but I wouldn't know because Google can be unhelpful when it was though. Remember how Google was helpful at the time, guys? This is what I mean when I say I have to dig in deeper to find what it is though. But other than that, I can't really be too mad at the show because it did do what it is though. And as for the voice cast, well, you can bet that there's a lot of voice actors to be happier, though. And I might as well go over them though. Sadako was voiced by Hannah Alcorn, and I don't really know much about her roles, but for one thing, for sure though, she's always stuck into the additional roles character, mostly on Hunter x Hunter. So it's pretty surreal to see her voicing a main lead. So at least there's that though. Oh, Kyohei is voiced by Josh Grell, who's voiced a lot of characters though, but I mostly know him for either voicing in something like, say, Princess Jellyfish or My Hero Academia, where he actually does have a lot of range to his own characters when it comes right down to it. Or hell, if you want another uh, performance that you heard someplace else, though, Yuki was voiced by Greg Ayers. There's not a lot of roles I can mention from him, but he has voiced other characters like, say, in Oron, and as well as some other roles. But I mostly hear him on that, though. Every time I think of Yuki, I think of Kaoru's voice, despite the English dub having those times, though. Oh, and said Noi was voiced by Jessica Boone, and while I do want to list her whole filmography here because she's been in a ton of stuff, I mostly know her voice for being a Princess Tutu. Speaking of Princess Tutu, we do get to see Lucy Christian voice Ronmaru's his love interest, but also Ronmaru is voiced by Chris Patton, who you may know for voicing Fakir from Princess Tutu, and there's others like, say, Full Metal Panic, and as well as some other roles that you may heard him from. He has also voiced other, there's like, say, Kids on the Slope or something like that, but I'll get to that when we get to the series when we get to it though. And there's also Takanaga, who's voiced by Vic Mignogna. Okay, let me just stress enough though. I'm not gonna tell you guys Mignogna. Personally, it's really hard to say if I don't want to side with the guy. And even if I did, I know there are going to be some angry comments out there saying, well, you've been late to the party. We already know what happened behind the scenes. To that, I say, I'm just telling you guys how I feel about this. Not comfortable how I feel about Vic Mignogna's voice acting, but I will say he does have a distinguishing voice, though. Like he voiced in Full Metal Alchemist and Brotherhood. He voiced he's in his Soul Eater, and yes, again, Oron, and a lot of others I can list along the way that if I did that. Tiffany Grant, who's done a ton of roles, but the most I've known her for was the Sentai Film Works dub. It had a decent cast, and it seemed like there were a lot of things going for it, though. But unfortunately, it came out at the wrong time, at least when it came out. And you'll see, this is what I mean. See, the Wallflower came out around the time when Oron was still a thing. And around that time, a lot of people were really hyped up over Oron than it was for the Wallflower. So I had no idea the Wallflower existed at that time because, like I said, I didn't really grow up with a lot of shoujo anime, nor did I know this I do know for a fact is how much the Wallflower had a lot of potential for it, though, and it's potential that never really got into the public eye as much as it has, though. But I hear a lot of people say that they like the Wallflower over Oron, and honestly, that's not really my decision to make. And let me just still have the chance. I do not care how the series is better. I don't care which one is the better option. I don't even care if the series is worse than the other. What I'm here for is to be entertained. And this won't be the last time I'll be saying it, though, but as someone as indecisive as me, the Wallflower, when I started watching this year's series, I caught it when I was having a struggling time in 2022 library. But aside from this one, there were plenty of other JoJo stuff I've seen so far at that time that I wanted to take a look at. Hell Girl, Night Rate, Earth, I Basket. Around that time, I wanted to see more of my shoujo library. library, and around that point, though, there were some things that were just unavoidable for me. My pops, something that was girl or women related, but when it's something that's boys or men related, I don't normally get hell for it, though. So you can imagine how much. But personally, I don't think that's really a problem in of itself, though. I'm not saying that the series itself came out when I started watching it, though, because 2022, no matter how many people tell me, they still tell me that it was a great year by it. But trust me when I say this, the Wallflower was also due to the fact that despite this being shoujo related, I had a hard time watching this though. Around April, around Easter, my younger sister's birthday, I started watching this series around that time. And honestly, I can't really say, hey, that's a bad choice, all things considered. I wanted to see something new for a change, like something that no one's ever seen before, or in this case, almost no one's ever seen before. But like I said before, option for my audience, or which one's the worst option. What I'm here for personally is to be entertained by a series and see if I enjoy it or not. And while I admit the Wallflower did take me a long time to watch, I only watched half of it during the time when it was around April of 2022. And I didn't start going back to it until August of 2022. So I didn't really have much options after that because around that time I started getting hell whenever I started watching something like this. Again, go back to what I said, especially when I take my break 2022. And despite how much people love that year, I'm not going to say who though, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people enjoyed that year, but it wasn't a good year for me personally. So you can imagine how much time I had though. But even before animation, I don't hate that studio, but sometimes the series' animation can be one way or the other. Sometimes it looks like they're doing pretty good with their series, but other times it looks like they're just making it a bit too jumpy at times, though. Though honestly, that's the time, though. I'm not against them trying a new style or anything like that, unless that's what happened in the manga. But I think it also has to do with where you look at, are usually a year where digital upgrade has been going around, though. So they probably wanted to try something new with it, though. And at that point, they wanted to have something else like this, though. I'm not here to say that you have to watch the show to give it your all, but what I am saying is that it really depends on what you're looking for. So you can definitely bet what it is, though. But when I started watching this show, I didn't really like the animation at first glance, but the more I was with it be shown into a shoujo demographic series. Let's put it this way: when I was watching a lot of anime, most of the stuff I watched were either shonen or seinen, and you can imagine why I don't talk about those that much. Talk about mostly magical girl stuff or something that almost nobody talks about though. I mean, hell, I try my best to add something new to the conversation and see what reads up on it though. Aside from that though, the Wallflower does have something else though, mainly about Sanako's chibi form. Now, if you haven't seen the show, you might be asking what's wrong with going in chibi stage. After all, a lot of anime do that. Now, I will say that's not really a problem for everybody. It's just a problem I personally have whenever Sanako goes into chibi form. I will admit it does look cute, but even and I'll admit there are times where I feel like it's unnecessary. And where they, despite how much she's over the show, slowly, may I add, you think they would at least put her back into her own regular form and say she's really growing her hair off occasionally, and it doesn't seem staged, but I get why they call the wallflower that. Yeah, at first glance I didn't know why they call it the wallflower, but when looking up the definition, it does mean a shy person, someone who's not very. However, while I will admit it does get degrading after a while, I think it's only because I just wanted her to grow up here too and just say, hey, you don't have to age no more. But I get why that is the whole point of this here series. It's supposed to show Sanako how growing as time goes on, though. I don't want to spoil too much of the series, but I'm going to go over some things that actually hit with me, though. So let's talk about Kyo's. Being real with you here, I didn't think there was much about Kyohei other than saying he's cocky, he's a loudmouth, he loves to eat a lot, and a lot of other stuff. But when watching this here series for myself, I have to be honest, I really do what they do with his character. But with his parents, it's really one or the other with you guys. I'm not here to for everybody, but I freaking did not care about how it's and Kyo can understand though, and as well as her aunt. But as for Kyohei's parents, I don't know if I'm spoiling anything when I say this, but what's wrong with having an attractive son when you realize that despite how good looking he is, he has a lot of girls going after him and such like that. Maybe it's because I'm really into seeing that it's almost like the Beatles if it was for certain when one girl shows up though. Granted, that could be a metaphor, and while the series is nowhere near Beatles related, it still does lose sight of the fact of what that is though. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for having something like that though, but you really don't have to worry about what they act about what they do with this series and just want Kyohei to do whatever he has though. Oh, but he's the radiant of light. That makes it bad because he's so good looking and everything like that. I don't know what's the problem though, other than the fact that you have an attractive son and you may think that's really too much, but that's how anything else though. Yeah, worse doesn't like how he looks because he feels like a lot of girls keep going after him and such. And really, who could blame them? Yeah, I'm watching have a lot of these attractive young boys just to see what they look like, and then they do man service in the slightest like that. The man service is not always itself. I wanted to like it more than I thought I would have, but I think it's mostly because it's a bad series. I do love this your show, but even I'll admit it took a hell of a hard time watching people yell at me when I'm trying to enjoy something. But that's what happens when you have someone who used to yell at you all the time. Because every time I try to enjoy something, regardless if it's girls or for women, I still get held for it. But if it's for boys and women, hell no. I just get left alone after that, though. You can do pretty much whatever you want when it comes to that, but the Wallflower, in spite of how old it is, I think it still holds up pretty well. Don't get me wrong, the ensues, but I'm not gonna lie, it does seem like it had a lot of things going for it though. My advice to you, if you want to watch The Wallflower for yourself, well, you can watch in dub if you want to, though. But for some reason, I don't know why, but YouTube decided to put only 24 out of the 25 episodes dubbed. Maybe it's because the last episode really what I think about it about it when it comes right down to it. But as it stands, however, I think it's held up pretty well for itself. If you're someone who's into seeing a female character that you think eh, she is from Inside Out and all that stuff, then you can pretty much do a whole lot worse, though. I would argue that this series probably came out at the wrong time for some people, but it was. So if you like The Wallflower, you can pretty much watch it to online somewhere if you find all episodes like I did, or if you want to watch it subtitled, they do have it on YouTube for the time being. I'm not gonna say it's gonna appeal to everybody, but if you can get through the hilarious, oh, and don't take it, go at it. This movies where they do have it on Hulu or Disney Plus, depending on what you want to look at, and they still have it though. If you want to watch a show for yourself, go right ahead. See me video. I'm going to be talking about a list next month. And in this case, it's a list that thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. And as always, stay Flamingo.